What is up, Team ProGuides, and welcome back to another upcoming changes video. We are back, guys. It's been a while. I missed you guys. Today, I'm going to be walking you guys through all the big changes, the nerfs, the buffs that are happening next patch, and hopefully all of this information can help you on your climb. But before we start the video, I want to know from you guys, which balance change are you most looking forward to in the next patch? For me, I'm pretty happy that they're going to be nerfing Misfortune. You heard it. She will be nerfed, and it is a good thing. She has been S tier for so long. I don't know why Riot never touched her. Anyways, she's going to be nerfed this patch. Let's all celebrate. All right, now to start the video off, we have a bunch of new skins. You know, this is my favorite section. These are the confirmed skins that will drop next patch, and that's going to be in the Pulsefire skin line. 5 new skins, including 1 Prestige Edition, are going to be added with the upcoming event. If you aren't aware, Pulsefire Echo, Fiora, Lucian, Prestige Lucian, and Pantheon are being added to the skin shop. These skins include new voiceover effects, particles, and recall animation, so make sure you guys check those out. Okay, now let's get on to the balance changes. First up at the top lane are some well-needed nerfs. Kled has been too rampant of a pick in practically every elo. Most notably, Riot has stated that he's been too strong in skilled brackets, but honestly, he's felt strong everywhere. Moving forward, Kled's Q cooldown is receiving a major nerf in the early game. Its cooldown is increasing from 9 to 7 seconds to 11 to 7 seconds. This increased cooldown in the early game is huge because it'll change how a ton of his matchups are played out. Kled is definitely one of those level 2 power spike cheese champions. Increasing the cooldown on his Q by 2 seconds at level 1 means it'll be much harder for him to contest lane priority across several different matchups. This nerf will definitely be much more noticeable in mid-elo and high-elo because players have a better grasp on how to punish their opponents when their abilities are on cooldown. But if you like Kled in low elo, keep on playing him. No big changes here. Next up for nerfs in the top lane, we have Maokai. Maokai is receiving a minor nerf to his Q. Its mana cost is going up from 50 to 60. While I personally believe this nerf is too small, at the very least, it's an effective one. Currently, it feels like there's no way to punish Maokai or stop him from scaling up. Even if you want to zone him away from his minions, he can use his Q to farm and minimize the damage he takes. By increasing the mana cost on his Q, Maokai won't be able to farm with it as often and will have to use it a little bit more sparingly. As a lot of Maokai players do take Biscuit Delivery and Mana Flow Band, it is unlikely that this nerf will make a huge difference on Maokai's win rate. At the very least though, he'll have a little bit less farm by the end of the laning phase, which might determine if he can finish an item or not. Finally, we do have a buff in the top lane. Sure, most of us wish this was a nerf though, even though I kind of think we all miss that better nerf Aurelia meme, which has been lost for quite some time. Aurelia is actually getting buffed because she's been underperforming so much at all levels of play. Her ease damage is going up from 70 to 230 to 80 to 260. In the later parts of the game, that's a 30 damage increase on an AoE ability. Theoretically, if you ever hit 5 opponents with it at once, well, that's 150 more damage. But once again, that's a best case dreamlike scenario. 30 damage is still a buff, and let's not forget that 10 more damage at level 1 could actually be a differentiator. Sometimes you could get first blood, and that may snowball Aurelia out of control. But to be honest, it's unlikely that she'll suddenly become OP because of this buff. There are so many problems with Aurelia that we can't really even fit in this video, so I don't think that Aurelia is going to suddenly become OP, but a buff's a buff. Glad to have it. Alright guys, that's it for the top lane. Now let's move into the jungle. Okay, now I'm not sure why they just did this. They literally just buffed Kayn, and now they want to nerf him again. In all seriousness though, they did overbuff Kayn a little bit, and he'll still be stronger than he was before his buffs. Kayn's Rost form, specifically, has been performing far too well. His passive healing is being decreased from 34.5 to 43% to 30 to 40%. This shouldn't be a huge deal since he'll usually have a Death Stance built anyway to supplement his healing. At the end of the day, this nerf will make Rost a little bit less durable, but we still expect him to perform quite well. His wave clear hasn't taken a hit, so solo lane Kayn is definitely still going to see some play here and there. We also have some buffs coming our way to Udyr. Udyr is set to receive a 5 movement speed buff, increasing his starting speed from 345 to 350. Is 5 movement speed a big deal? Well, that's always subjective, but for a champion like Udyr, it definitely is. The only thing keeping Udyr from murdering someone is the space between himself and his opponent. All he can do is run at them. If you stop him in his tracks, or can run faster than him, there's absolutely nothing he can do about it. This 5 movement speed buff is going to be pretty big in the early game, as 350 movement speed is extremely high to start the game with. The slowest champions in the game, excluding a dismounted Kled or a Janna without her W, have 325 base movement speed. Udyr would basically start with a tier 1 boot advantage over them with this buff. Getting in some successful ganks is exactly what Udyr needs to get rolling. Ultimately, Udyr is a pretty one-dimensional champion, and with how complex newer ones are, this buff should help him survive amidst the new era of champion design. Nidalee is also scheduled for some buffs. Her Q's AP ratio is going up from 40 to 50%. Nidalee has been performing decently around Platinum and Diamond, exceptionally well above it, and rather poorly below it. This buff is likely targeted at low and mid elo players, but it's a scary one considering that it may break the game for high elo players as a result. She holds well above a 50% win rate in Masters and higher, but it's a small price to pay considering that they make up a very small portion of the player base. Most players aren't able to find success with her, so I understand why Riot felt that way and that they had to make a change. High elo players, however, are going to have to watch out for her potential dominance in solo queue soon. With that being said, that's it for the jungle. Now let's move on to the mid lane. Finally, we have some well-needed nerfs. First up is Diana. We've considered her an S+ tier champion for the longest time, and she's finally being put in her place. I wish it was a bigger nerf though. She's only receiving a minor one. Her base health is going to be going down from 594 to 570. Starting just below 600 health, Diana already had an incredible baseline at the start of games. 570 is much more reasonable, but this nerf won't significantly affect Diana's win rate. Diana players usually build Rod of Ages and sometimes run teleport anyway, so missing 24 health early on won't make a huge difference for her gameplay. I could honestly see them nerfing Diana next patch, so just stay tuned and sub to the channel if you want to see any update regarding Diana. Another champion receiving a nerf is Katarina. Her passive AP ratio is taking a big hit as its scaling is being reduced at all points of the game after level 6. At levels 1, 6, 11, and 16 respectively, the ratio is going to be reduced from 55, 70, 85, 100% to 55, 66, 77, 88%. As Katarina's gameplay revolves heavily around her passive, this nerf makes a huge difference in the late game. Takedowns always matter, but they matter even more on Katarina. With most champions, they determine whether or not they've taken their target out and received a sizable gold reward. For Katarina though, it means much more because she relies on those takedowns for her resets. Whether she needs them to move forward and continue her onslaught or to reset her Shumpo for a getaway, Katarina absolutely needs those kills or assists. She'll still be quite strong, but this is a big nerf, do not underestimate it. We'll just have to wait and see what it really does to her. Twisted Fate is receiving a massive early game buff in contrast. First, his base attack damage is going up from 49.954 to 52. I don't know why they had to go to the 1000th place for that number to begin with, but at least they've cleaned it up now. On top of this though, his R's mana cost is going to be decreased from 150 to 100. Some would call it massive buff to Twisted Fate for his first ultimate. In many cases when you're playing Twisted Fate, you'll make it to level 6 but be pretty low on mana. Whether you've been using it to farm or to trade against your opponent, you're oftentimes not going to have much left to use. With an ultimate that costs 150 mana, it would be difficult to use it early on for some side lane roams. Since Twisted Fate's W costs 40 mana, you would at least need 190 mana left to roam to a side lane. With his buff, you'll only need 140. 200 mana means that you'll have a Q as well when you're now porting over to a side lane. Increased base attack damage means that it'll be easier for Twisted Fate players to last hit and also to push their lanes. In the late game, these buffs won't really change a thing, but they're definitely going to help him out early on, and that's going to help him get some extra gold, some extra power for those roams, which could help him snowball the game. Overall, big buffs, very good for Twisted Fate. Another mid laner is receiving buffs, and that is Annie. First up, Annie's E damage reduction is going up from 10 to 22% to 13 to 29%. Also, her R's aura damage is going up from 10 to 20 plus 10% AP to 20 to 40 plus 20% AP. This buff punishes players that don't properly deal with Tibbers. It's her ultimate after all, you shouldn't be able to ignore it completely. However, this is also a burst damage buff in many cases as well. If you're using Annie's ultimate to stun opponents, you're guaranteed to get at least one instance of the aura's damage. Therefore, she'll be even better at one-shotting opponents after level 6. Her ease buff is definitely a nice touch as well. Any players don't rely on this ability heavily for its defensive properties, instead using it for the movement speed buff. Increasing the damage reduction should give Annie players more ways to viably use her E. Alright guys, that's it for the mid lane. Now let's head to the bot lane. Finally, Miss Fortune is going to be nerfed. Everyone has been waiting for ages to finally see what kind of balance change they're going to make to Miss Fortune, and here we are. Miss Fortune's maximum movement speed on her W is going down from 60 to 100 to 40 to 80. What does this mean? Well, this targets a couple of things. One is that Miss Fortune is able to return to lane extremely quickly because of her W. Having 60 bonus movement speed is like having Boots of Swiftness for free. If you actually buy boots to supplement this, you can quickly return to lane with basically no issues. So this change is actually quite large. She will not be able to get to lane very fast anymore. Miss Fortune also relies on movement speed for engaging. It's going to be a lot harder to get those clean engages off on her during ganks or team fights with this new nerf. While her damage hasn't been touched, this nerf should quite literally slow Miss Fortune down quite a bit, making her a little bit more vulnerable to ganks and also making it more difficult for her to come to lane after recalling. Sivir is also receiving a buff. Her ease mana refund is going up from 80 to 140 to 110 to 150. This is a nice buff for sure, as it'll make opponents have to think carefully about casting spells on her. Admittedly, this buff is actually kind of irrelevant in the late game, but 30 extra mana for every shield during the early game is pretty huge. Since Sivir likes to spend a ton of mana to push waves in, this is definitely going to feel noticeable when playing her. Alright guys, that's it for the bot lane. Now let's wrap things up with support. Alright guys, another Soraka buff. Here we go again. Please don't go back to the top lane, Soraka. I beg you. Her Q's damage is going up from 75 to 215 to 85 to 225. Also, her W's health refund when rejuvenated is going up from 60 to 100% to 80 to 100%. This might be a cause of concern as she's getting closer and closer to where she once was. Soraka has been performing decent at all ranks, so this buff should make Soraka a go-to pick next patch. We'll have to wait and see whether she's absolutely broken or not because of these buffs, but there's no doubt that she'll be either an A or an S tier pick because of this buff. Lux's support has been underperforming and Riot has been looking to buff her as well. However, they haven't been able to finalize these buffs and they're being pushed to patch 10.11. Finally, Taric is receiving a nerf. His health per level is going down from 90 to 85, and his W's bonus armor from 10 to 20% to 10 to 14%. Ultimately, this leaves Taric somewhat squishier than before. While his early game and powerful laning will still remain intact, players should now have an easier time bursting Taric down. At level 18, he'll now have 85 less health than before and 6% less armor. He's a little squishier now, so it should be easier for players to try and burst him down before his ultimate's channel completes. During many intense teamfights, this nerf is going to decide whether or not Taric dies, which will severely impact whether his team wins or loses the fight. Alright guys, that's a wrap for the upcoming changes for patch 10.10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining our live classes as well. We have them on YouTube as you guys know, but we also have them on ProGuides. They're super fun. You guys get to play personally with a ton of great pro players, including Pobelter, including Zyrene, including Mike Young. All these great pros that you get to play with and learn from. It's just super fun. Also, if you guys are interested in getting better at League of Legends this season, don't forget to go find your challenger coach today. Go to ProGuides.com and meet a high elo player who can help you climb. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to make a new friend. Highly recommend. And for all of you guys who play Valorant, don't forget to sub to our new channel, ProGuides Valorant. There we have a ton of amazing content to help you guys out. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to be notified for more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, it's been Christoph with you guys. I love you all. That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.